A middle school counselor was returned to Utah and faces rape charges. Authorities warned the public about the consequences of swatting, and volunteers search for signs of the Mojave Desert tortoise.
You're watching St. George News at 5.
Good afternoon, I'm Amy Bennett. Last week, a middle school counselor in Mesquite, Nevada was arrested after charges were filed in Washington County for rape and forcible sodomy. 54-year-old David Curtis was taken back to Utah on Tuesday and faces charges of sexually assaulting a minor who was under the age of 10 multiple times. Investigators noted that there may have been similar incidences that involved Curtis in multiple states, and he is currently being held without bail in Washington County. Earlier this week, authorities rushed to Hurricane High School after reports of an active shooter, only to discover it was a hoax. Maury Kessler explains why pranks like these are far from amusing and the serious consequences for those who falsely report emergencies to law enforcement.
April Fool's Day saw law enforcement from across the county surround Hurricane High School in response to an active shooter call that turned out to be a hoax. While there was a sense of relief and praise for the swift response from multiple law enforcement agencies by people over social media, a crime had still been committed by someone calling in the false alarm. Often referred to as swatting, the act of making a false call to police about a violent crime or other emergency as a so-called prank can prove to be a frustrating waste of time and resources for law enforcement and other first responders, and also be highly dangerous for officers and people who reside at the targeted location. Under current law, someone can be charged with a third-degree felony for calling in a false alarm or a threat that could harm others, or results in harm or injury to others. If that call involves a bomb threat, it can become a second-degree felony, which can result in a prison term of up to 15 years depending on the severity of the offense. However, starting May 1st, a new law recently signed by the governor will bump up fake calls targeting schools to a second-degree felony.
Thanks, Maury. As most know, discussions on water conservation are always ongoing in southern Utah. And in a recent climate conversation meeting at Utah Tech, this was the main topic officials were discussing. Bridger Palmer has more from the meeting and some of the challenges affecting southern Utah's water.
In partnership with PBS Utah, Utah Tech hosted a climate conversation on Thursday in the Dunford Auditorium in the Browning Resource Center. The panel of experts consisted of Doug Bennett from Washington County Water Conservancy, Karen Goodfellow from Conserve Southwest Utah, and Scott Taylor from the City of St. George Water Department. The panel discussed how tourism affects water use, the need for better water conservation in places like car washes and housing, replacing grass with drought-resistant plants, and how much water golf courses use and ways to reduce it. The through line of the event was answering questions submitted by Utah Tech students. Representatives from PBS Utah say they hope discussions like this can happen again in the future.
Thanks, Bridger. Beginning this week, the visitors who are heading to Cedar Breaks Monument will notice increased entrance fees as well as campground fees. The new adjustments to the fees will reflect the rates of local sites that have similar amenities while also supporting the park's maintenance and operations. Overall, this will help enhance visitors' experiences at the park and help fund crucial projects in the future like signage, ranger programming, and the ability to purchase a map of the park. Washington County is home to all sorts of native species, although one in particular stands out among the rest, the Mojave Desert tortoise. Alicia Lundgren met up with Conserve Southwest Utah to talk about how they're monitoring local endangered animals like Mojave Desert tortoises.
In mid-March, volunteers from Conserve Southwest Utah kicked off Year 2 of a project that was funded and designed by the local Bureau of Land Management Office. The goal of the project is to monitor Mojave Desert tortoises and other threatened, endangered, or sensitive species in the Beaver Dam Wash National Conservation Area. The volunteers navigated rocky, sandy terrain in search of tortoise sign, like scat, burrows, or the animals themselves. Conserve Southwest Utah Stewardship Coordinator Fred Armstrong said he was grateful for the participants' work.
I have a heartfelt thanks for the volunteers that have been involved with our program, and there's plenty of opportunity to get involved as we will have images to review and edit and data to record.
The project was prompted in part by current motorized vehicle use, which could potentially see an increase in the future.
Thank you for watching St. George News at 5. I'm Amy Bennett with St. George News, your #1 source for local news.
This has been St. George News at 5.